Vexed by technology? Not anymore. I'm David YAK here, and this is YAK About Tech. Hey everybody, what's up? This is David YAK here, and you are listening and watching YAK About Tech. So we've got a great and special show again. This is part 2 of our show, and so it's slightly different to our listening and watching audience now because we usually have sort of certain things we do. But we had such an exciting first show with Carl that we never finished really where we were going here. So I thought we'd take the entire half hour, or 21 minutes or 22 minutes, whatever it is, with our commercial sponsors to really dig deeper. So for those of you who don't know, we're sitting here with Lisa Reimer.
Hi.
Right, who's a great co-host who I never want to lose now. Now that I've had this experience, I sort of want to keep this going, and, you know, that makes it a little more fun. And, you know, Wayne, I never really realized how much fun it is to actually have people in the studio. It's not as you people know out there, it's not how we usually do things. It's usually me looking at a computer, talking to somebody on Skype. And now I have people to play with, which is interesting. I realized in the last show, I wasn't really used to it. It was sort of, I felt like I was doing something for the first time. So we are back, and it's really very exciting for me. And we have Carl, and Carl, as you know, if you listen to the last show, he's one of the great treasure hunters in the deep sea and had all these years and years of extraordinary experience. And there's a couple of things I really want to talk about here that I think are interesting. And then maybe we're going to play a little game toward the end. I'll name one of your sort of treasure hunting, and you tell me great stories about it, you know. But first, we were talking earlier before the show when we first got together here. I've always been so curious about, you know, treasure hunting. I mean, this is something in my world, it was more movies and books than it was reality. You know, there was something really mysterious about it. And I think, you know, you've always had this dream that you would just find a deep sea treasure.
Or the biggest emerald, like
right.
the size of a boulder. What is the most valuable thing you've ever found, Carl?
Well, gold objects are usually the best and the most expensive and the most valuable. Gold coins are wonderful because they're small and people are pretty much waiting in line to buy them. But I like the religious artifacts better, and a lot of those are worth a lot of money. For example, on the 1733 fleet once, I was lucky enough to find a reliquary. It's a oval-shaped small box about 3 inches and has a lid on it, opens and closes, and inside of it was 2 intact hand-carved rosewood rosaries, obviously belonged to maybe even the Archbishop, who was on board at the time. And they were inlaid, the crosses were inlaid with 22-karat gold. And right where the little cross beams cross, on each cross, were 2 little slivers of wood inlaid. And that was from the cross of a saint or a martyr about 2,000 years ago.
Now, the 1733, that was in the Keys?
That's the Florida Keys,
and
that's correct.
Did they find that sunken treasure before they found the 1715?
Absolutely. The 1733 fleet is what started modern-day treasure hunting.
Right.
Period.
But Mel Fisher didn't come for the 1733. They brought him here for the 1715.
That's correct, he did. But he was down on, he got into all of them, which was fine. And then, of course, Mel, I worked with Mel for 12 years. We did good. I liked Mel. You know, there's a lot of people that didn't, and a lot of people complain about him. But I never knew Mel to take advantage or of anybody unless they tried to get him first. Because when you talk to him, you think, oh, man, he's some kind of country bumpkin. No, Mel was smart.
Carl, I know that now we have so much with this high technology and finding what's going on the ocean bottom with the ultrasounds and lasers. But back when you began, was it really you and the sharks down there in the water?
Yes, sharks.
Still?
Everybody asks about sharks, and the truth is that the shark evolved into as good as it's going to get hundreds of millions of years ago. And when they get hungry, they can eat. So they have a lot of leisure time, which is why you see them on practically every dive. I was metal detecting and hand fanning. I was on the 1715 fleet. And the shark swims right up and stuck his head down in the hole I was making. They're curious. You know, he wasn't hungry. He didn't want to bite me. He just wondered, what in the heck's that guy doing there? And these bites that are going on now for whatever reason, you know, the turtles are hatching and the sharks like the turtles, so they go where the turtles are. And most of them are in shallow water. They see a flash of white down there and they bite it. They're not literally attacking humans. The average 5 people a year die from shark attacks. Your chances of getting hit twice by lightning are much better. And I think donkeys kill 50-some people a year. It's so.
And so, how do treasure hunters get paid? Do they have when they get the
question.
Right. Who gets the dough?
Do they have to wait till some treasure is found and they divvy up everything, or do they have investors that give everyone a living wage as they?
Good question, and I'm happy to clear that one up. Number one is here on the 1715 fleet and any other admiralty-oriented shipwrecks like we have here. In other words, it's under federal guidelines. You keep everything in a central location, and then once a year, usually it's in February, Judge King down in Miami will say, if nobody's objecting, okay, fellas, divide it up. And then which we've already divided it, but it's being held, and then we can take our boxes home.
And that's with all the crew and the state, correct?
Yes, the state.
Everyone gets theirs.
The state don't miss anything. Yeah.
Right.
They get first dibbies.
Is it like a tax, or is it just like they're just one of the people that splits
they've negotiated the percentages already?
They have negotiated the percentages. The Supreme Court threw the state of Florida out of it, but Mel Fisher, in order to maintain peace and tranquility, made a deal with the state. Look, we'll give you 20% if you just stop harassing us. So they accepted the deal.
So let's talk also, because, you know, we're going into hurricane season now, and there are some very, like you said, federally regulated restrictions on who gets to keep the treasure depending on where it's found. Where are those lines? If I find a piece of treasure in the water, like a big old emerald boulder falls into my lap as I'm swimming in the waves,
it's not yours. But if you say, I picked this up on the beach, then suddenly it is yours.
Oh.
In the water, no. On the beach, yes.
Just
normally,
like the Cubans, dry land?
Well, yeah, you can put it that way, too. About the word investors, I never in 40-some years have used the word investor. That implies you're going to get a return on your money.
Right.
$99 out of every 100 are lost, and they go into treasure. I do take money from people every trip, and I call them backers, and I explain to them that you're backers. And maybe we'll do good, maybe we won't. I have done good before, but whatever money you give me, you make sure your wife still can go to the grocery store.
It's like backing a Broadway show.
That's exactly right.
It's backing a Broadway show. Most Broadway shows don't make it.
Well, and that's creative accounting also. The same with, you know, Hollywood movies, that most of them don't make money, even the blockbusters.
But I do have a question about that, is that these things are very expensive to do now, aren't they? I mean, to go out there. So what is it, you know, let's say you're visiting one of these, you know, you're going back, let's say, to the 1715 or the 1733 because you think there's something still there. And the first thing you do is sit there and go, okay, I guess you do a budget. How much is this going to cost to go in there? And then you turn around to backers.
That's true. I have it all figured ahead of time.
And then do you make do you have a deal with them that says, look, you know, if I find something, you get your money back plus?
Yes.
And so you say plus 20% or plus 10% of whatever I find.
Yeah, but that doesn't work. Tell us about this guy that they had the highway signs all over Florida, And he was living here for a while in Vero Beach.
That's Tommy Thompson. I know him, and I'm just here to tell you, it was in 1987 when they found the record of Central America. Those guys did one heck of a good job. I think they spent like $5 million, and they studied the currents, and they had every scrub, and they went out and found it. Next day, there's something like 177 lawsuits against them. Mm-hmm. The only people that made money on that was attorneys. Mm-hmm. And these poor guys that did all the work. And I'm just telling you, Tommy Thompson drove to the point where maybe he went a little off center, but they did it all, and they got nothing.
How could they get nothing? How do they live while they're searching for treasure?
A friend of mine was involved in that, and hell, I thought he had a lot of money. I said, John, I got the lease on Hogstye Reef in the Bahamas. He said, wait, Fizz, slow down. You think I got money, don't you? I said, the Central America? He said, I ain't seen a effing dime from that wreck. He said, the lawyers are getting everything.
I have a question, I think, that always fascinated me. So there are known sort of treasures, I guess. But when this all started, did somebody scour the history books around the world and, read old writings from 1,000 years ago?
In fact, so my friend, Dr. Kelso, from what I understand,
he did.
So Dr. Kelso was this amazing man who was our first health department doctor. And he had an interesting background, and he had learned to speak Spanish fluently, which, back someone that was born in like 1918 or 12 may not be, totally bilingual, especially if you are brought up on a farm in Illinois. So he actually learned to speak Spanish, and he took his kids. He was an adventurer, and he was one of the founders of the Sebastian River Medical Center with the Atometic Hospital. So he was an adventurer. He was an out-of-the-box thinker, and he went to Washington, D.C. with his family, 6 kids, and put them in a trailer. And they had the pool and, everything in the campground. And every day he would go into the National Archives, and he found a book in Spanish that documented the sinking of the Etosha in the 1715 fleet. And so he was able to translate that. He went to Spain. He went to the archives of this small town and found the shipping, the journal from the captain. And he pinpointed the area where he believed the 1715 fleet sunk. Then he worked with Kip Wagner, and they had the Real 8. They put this group together, and they had grown up in this area. They saw the cannons when the tides went out. The kids would find escudos, and they'd flip them over the waves. And so they put something together, and they're the ones who brought Mel Fisher here and said, okay, here's the map. And there have been others, like Ernie Lyons, one of our Vero Beach city managers. He also did much of the same and did the historical research to determine where which was the ships that sunk more toward Fort Pierce.
You're absolutely right. Everything you just said. And Dr. Kelso was the first. He went to the Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain. People close behind him, Dr. Eugene Lyon from Vero. Mm-hmm.
He was our city manager.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And his daughter is still one of our attorneys.
Gene's a good friend of mine. Gene had a lease. I worked it for him about 30 years ago. And Jack Haskins was a partner in research with Gene Lyon. But Jack Haskins, who you never heard of, was the best archival researcher in the world. He's responsible for more Spanish treasure recovery than anybody. And he was also, in my opinion, the best treasure hunter in the world. He made fantastic recoveries. He just never tried for any publicity. I worked with Jack for 32 years, and I know him better than anybody. He's going to be in our book, a big part of it.
And really, the funny thing is none of these guys got really rich. Everyone did this for the love of the adventure, for working together for the discovery. I mean, no one even thought that they were going to get famous. They just really did it for the love of the adventure.
The follow-up question I have to that is, what was the biggest treasure that you've been involved with of all the treasure hunting?
I worked with Mel on the 1622 fleet, which I guess the Tocha was the biggest, but just recently, 2 years ago, Jack Haskins died and left me all of his research. I've got 250,000 pages of archival research. And recently, Hillary Clinton gave Odyssey as coins to the King of Spain, and the King of Spain realized, I'm giving away a lot of good information, so he closed the archives. You can't go there anymore. If you want archival research, I'm about the only game in town. I've got 250,000 pages that Jack Haskins kept bringing back from Spain, plus I have Jack's computer, and it has thousands and thousands of pieces of information on all the rich wrecks. But back to the richest wrecks found so far. We found it, actually Jack Haskins and I found it back in 1988. It's down in Panama. It's called the San Josef, sank in 1631, had 2.5 times the Atocha manifest. Now back to how we divide the treasure up. When we first worked at 88 and 89, Noriega was the dictator in Panama. We cut a deal with him. We'll take 2/3, you take 1/3. He said, okay. The State Department here wasn't going to let us go because they said some kind of Aid to the Enemies Act. And we said, what do you mean? They said, well, Noriega's into drugs. And we said, oh, are you just finding that out? We've known it in the Keys for 30 years. Anyway, we had to assign our lease to some Swedish company, and then they could hire us to go do the job, which we did. At the end of the day, we made 3 piles of treasure. Noriega sent a general down, and that general even asked me, which would you take? I told him honestly, I think this is the best one. He took that and went back to Noriega. We came home with our treasure. In other words, this dirty, rotten, lying, murdering dictator kept his word. You don't get that today with these Washington or Tallahassee.
Right. I have a really practical question. I mean, I guess it's a strange question in some ways.
I get a little excited about it.
I got it. So there we are. Here's the treasure. There's 3 piles. So I grab my share, and so what do I do? Get on a plane with a bag? How do you? How does the treasure get transported to someplace safe with pirates or whatever there is out there, not stealing it?
Well, we flew it back, but today, and I'm working in Panama right now, and we hit the mother lode on this particular wreck. So here's how it breaks down. We do all the work, we pay all the expenses, and it ain't cheap. The first big bite goes to whatever country claims ownership.
And that's the waters, the boundary waters.
And believe me, every grain of sand in the ocean and every drop of water today is claimed by some politician somewhere. There ain't an offshore reef that somebody don't own. So,
is that because some people have boundaries? We used to have it like a 12-mile boundary, and then people have 200-mile.
Yeah, there ain't no international. No more. That's the thing of the past.
There's no man's land anymore.
That's right. So they all own it. So the country takes the first big bite. Then the attorneys come in and take the second big bite. Then your backers, and I call them backers, not investors, they come in and they take the next big bite. And what's ever left over gets divided amongst myself and my crew. And we've already paid God knows how many thousands, you know. And so did I make a living? Yes. Did I put my kids through school? Yes. Did I buy a house in the Keys? Yes. Do I have money in the bank? I've got $800 in the bank. So when I ask people for money, if you found so much treasure, why do you need me? Well, let me explain to you how that works. The first big bite, the second big bite.
Right, so you're doing as well as the rest of us.
Right. But this is an amazing time. So the 300th anniversary is coming up, and we have this whole week, and I guess it's the 1715 Spanish Fleet Society that's hosting it, and the Indian River Chamber of Commerce tourism department is partnering with them. And here in Indian River County is the official seat of this commemoration, although there are things going on across the Treasure Coast in museums and theaters and whatever. So
True.
What are you doing?
I'm just giving a couple of lectures during that time. But I really don't need to get on the bus and ride to Vero Beach. I've been there thousands of times.
You know what? Let's give Sam a chance, because you've got some books you want to talk about quick. I think we've got about a minute to go.
I'm performing at the Public Library on Monday the 27th, 2 shows and 2 30-minute shows. Also doing a book signing, and then my wife and I are performing at the Grand Ball on
the 31st.
31st.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So there's a big banquet, and everything is available on the 1715fleet.org.
Is there any place we can direct people to get information? Is there a website that we can tell people to get the information from? We've got about 30 seconds, I believe.
Indian River County Public Library, their website has everything.
And the Chamber of Commerce, and the 1715 Fleet. Oh, and I know. You go to the Facebook 300th anniversary 1715 Fleet, and they have everything, and they right now are asking for everyone to post pictures, and if you are a winner, your stuff can be included in the time capsule that they're burying in JC Park.
All right, and also I'll put everything up on Yak About Tech, our Facebook pages, Twitter, and on our Yak About Tech website. I can't thank you guys enough. I'd love to take you into a third show if I get a chance.
I know, I just want some golden gems.
That's right. All right, thank you, everybody, and love to you, Lisa, for everything.
So
we're going to do this on a regular basis.
Okay, so do we have a song about...